Welcome, homeschool mamas. I hope you are having a lovely summer day. I am so glad that I get to put a sweater on because it's been, I don't know, something like 27 degrees at 11 in the morning. It's too hot for these perimenopausal hormones. So I'm just cozying up with my sweater. I kind of like my gray sweater against my gray blue eyes. I was sharing this morning with a homeschool mom in the DMs that various stories about my grandma. And the one thing I have about my grandma, or what I have from my grandma who has passed, is that I have her blue-gray eyes. And I bring up my grandma because she was such a special space for me in my childhood. And it's perfect timing for me to share with you or to engage in this space in a way that I haven't engaged before. I have a self-compassion group coaching program. I have self-compassion, various resources that I offer you as a homeschool mom. And they have come from my own needs to embrace my real emotions, to learn how to deal with all the complicated things that come with having kids, for one. Every human that has children as a mother is challenged by her big emotions. And they don't always look pretty, and nobody talks about it. They talk often about how to address our kids' big emotions, but we don't always talk about how we address ours. And if you've come from stories like mine, and I know everyone hasn't, and yet I also know many have, stories like mine, as in my childhood, tumultuous, guaranteed to have CPTSD with something like that kind of story, then you're going to be challenged with your big emotions in your homeschool. You're going to be guaranteed to be challenged with your big emotions in your homeschool, even if you didn't. But this is where my story begins, is there. And I have learned and continue to learn all sorts of self-compassion tools. I've used mindfulness and meditation and yoga and EMDR, and the list can go on and on and on, but all sorts of activities. So today I have invited someone to have a chat with us about her offering. She's a homeschool mom. Her offering of meditation, mindfulness, and Sangha, which you may or may not be familiar with. But I know that in my early homeschool years, I certainly wasn't, and I certainly didn't feel comfortable with the idea of doing meditation because my childhood upbringing taught me that we don't do that. And I won't go into the details why, but if you also are one that didn't embrace certain practices like mindfulness, meditation, or yoga, then just try to engage me or to be present today in a open space. If you decide at the end, nope, still not there, totally cool. I was there too. But I'll tell you that meditation, mindfulness, yoga, all these practices have been profoundly useful for me in my healing and also dealing with my big emotions. So without further ado, I want to introduce Joanna John. She lives in Durham, North Carolina, with her husband and two kids, age 3 and 7. She's beginning her second year of homeschooling. She's a licensed elementary education and special ed teacher. She's also a certified mindfulness meditation teacher who learned under Tara Brach, which is so cool because I love Tara Brach. She is like a spiritual mother to me. So Joanna recently launched Sangha for Mamas and Papas and Family Sangha as a way to connect families with mindfulness and spiritual practice. So I invite Joanna to join me. Hey,
Hey there.
so nice to officially meet you
Oh, so good to meet you, Teresa, and face to face, right?
face to face across the country. I am in the West Coast or on the West Coast compared to where you're at.
Yes.
But is it as hot?
Sounds like I'm sorry.
Is no, is it as hot you're in North Carolina as it is here?
It is very hot here. Yes, it's like in the 90s today. So,
I think that's similar to
okay.
the 30 Fahrenheit thing that we've been experiencing, but it's not
Okay.
so hot that I don't want to put on my favorite gray sweater.
Right. Yes, I heard that. That was beautiful.
So
Oh, man.
I would love to hear your journey into mindfulness and meditation before you even became a certified meditation teacher.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I would say around age 19, I had a life event, not unusual to other people my age, but it felt really big to me. And it left me feeling like a tree with no roots. It
Mm.
left me feeling like I didn't know which end was up and that I didn't have anything to really hold on to. I didn't have solid ground to stand on. And so I found a therapist on the college campus, and she recommended mindfulness, and she made it seem very simple and appealing. So I tried it out, and I would say I pretty much dabbled in it until I became a mother.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I became a mother, wow, that really gave me the motivation to dive in
Yeah.
deeper.
Yep.
Yeah, specifically, I started experiencing a lot of anxiety around the passing of time with my baby. I, yeah, I put so much pressure on like cultivating these special moments with him. And, every like month marker, I was just like, oh my gosh, like I just want to savor this. But I didn't really have the skills at the time. There was a lot of like grasping and holding on, and that created a lot of anxiety. And so around that time, that is when I found Tara Brock.
Yeah.
And, she has all the lovely free teachings online. And yeah, and then here at Duke University, there was a mindfulness program, an 8-week course that I did. And I really learned how to look at life differently,
Mm-hmm.
how to relate to my emotions differently and my thoughts differently. And I realize now that I'm looking back, what I was really looking for was something that I could hold on to,
Yeah.
something that doesn't change.
Yes.
This
Amen,
feels,
sister. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely,
yeah,
100%. I relate to
yes.
everything you said, even the 19 years of age, existential.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So through mindfulness, I was able to really tap into this part of life, this part of myself where that's timeless, really. Conditions change, emotions change, our babies change, we change. But there's something in us and about this life that's really impervious to loss. And that's what I that's really what I feel like my mission is. And that's my mindfulness practice and my spiritual practice.
Is to not be impervious to loss.
Is to be in touch with that part of myself that remains through the changing seasons. Some may call that spirit, some may call that nature, you
Mm-hmm.
know, some may call that God. I don't know, but yeah.
Beautiful. Because
Thank
it felt
you.
so shifting and moving
Yes.
and uncertain.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I hear is that your process, the tools that you've gained have helped you to be in a state of acceptance.
Absolutely. Yeah, I started to notice that, life is going to change. There's these passing states, in the mindfulness community, you hear a lot about impermanence. And so that was something to play with and to practice with. And then also through meditation, mindfulness meditation in particular, I was able to start to take the seat of the witness. And I'm sure that terminology is not new to you, but for people who may not be familiar with meditation, after a time when you meditate, you see things change. You hear a sound that is here, and then it's not here. And then you might see something that is here, and then it's not here. An emotion arises, and then it's gone. And then you start to kind of wonder, who is it? Who or what is it that's doing the watching or doing the seeing? And that witnessing quality or observer mind is what has really been profound for me.
My experience of it, I'm familiar with terminology. I know that I know it's not familiar with everybody or to everybody, and maybe sometimes, you know, I resist speaking on publicly as though I'm trying to speak to people that don't understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And I was one of them that didn't get it, didn't appreciate it, had a negative outlook at it. I even like spiritualized it away as something that was not good for me. And now I've done it a bit, and I've come to, not a bit, I've actually done it a lot, but enough to understand that it's powerful. It's like when we decide to eat, we're going to put food in our mouths, and we can go grab the bag of Cheetos if we've bought them, and we can eat that, and it will fill our tummies. Or we can get the carrots and the hummus or cherries, you know, whatever. It doesn't matter to me
Yeah.
what it is. But, and you feel differently in your brain. You have a different experience of the rest of your day because you feel like, oh, I just don't feel good. I don't feel with those
Right.
Cheetos. It just doesn't feel right. Whereas with, you know, maybe with a bag of carrots and hummus, after 20 minutes, it might be enough. And you feel clear and you have more energy and you can go on with your day. And that was my experience. That was one of many of my experiences that I've had with meditation, that it made me feel like, ooh, I'm tapping into something that makes me feel healthier. It makes me feel more alive or more fueled for the real life that is present. And it didn't have all the qualities that I'd heard previously about, oh, that's not a healthy thing or that's not a good thing. I was like, I don't understand from this perspective how it's being characterized in a negative way. And so I'll take it to the, when I'm talking about it, I will no longer be speaking as though we have someone with us that doesn't get it. I will just approach the discussion as though people appreciate what it means to have
I love that.
quiet moment, because you know, just I would love to hear your ideas, your techniques for actually including it in our real lives, because we have busy lives. And I know the things I've often encouraged people to do is to grab their phones and schedule a mindfulness moment in their phone. And I call it a mindfulness moment, 11 a.m. every day. I still do it, where I'll stop, it'll tell me to breathe, I'll put my hand on my heart and just take a couple slow, deep breaths. Can't even say it, by the way, without wanting to do it.
Yeah.
And just ask myself, how am I feeling? What's going on inside of me? Where am I feeling what I'm feeling? What are the thoughts that I'm having? What were the thoughts that I was having before that feeling? And then sometimes I'm tapping into and what was the story that I've created out of those.
Absolutely. And you know, you touched on embodiment, which is for me is a very it actually, you know, you can meditate, you can take, you know, schedule in that time, and then there's also just mindfulness, which really takes no time at all, right? It's just sort of a shift in how you're looking at things.
Yeah.
Like for instance, when my 3-year-old is having big feelings, to help in co-regulating with him, I've really just started to be aware of my own bodily sensations. And I can just sort of feel the energy coursing through my body. And again, it's that witnessing quality. I'm able to witness what is happening in my own nervous system. And so it gives me a chance to respond instead of react, right? I mean, we all lose our patience sometimes, and, you know, that's normal. But yeah, it gives me a chance to respond instead of react. And I know you also asked kind of like the practicalities of scheduling in meditation time. For me, it's really changed kind of with the season that I'm in. When I had one child, I would, and he took naps, I would designate like, you know, it's 45-minute block of time. And that was great and really helpful. And then when my second child was born, that felt a little less practical. And so I had to get a lot more flexible with maybe lessening the time or waiting until my husband got off work, or, even right before we got on, I was thinking to myself, oh, I wish I had time to meditate before I get on with Teresa. And I kind of realized that, like, arguing with reality, and I thought, there's nobody in the room with me right now. I mean, kids can be in the room, but I thought, can I just like notice what's around me right now? Can I just feel my feet on the floor? And so that was just like an impromptu mindfulness meditation right there.
Yes.
But with
Yeah.
the habit, creating a habit, it really is helpful to like commit to a time each day. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know people will ask me about my routines because I speak about these things all the
Mm-hmm.
time. And I know that where I'm at, where I have my third daughter is graduated, she's going to
Yeah.
college next week.
That was a big
And it was,
transition.
it's been pretty, it's bigger than I thought it would be at this point.
Yeah.
And then my fourth is 14, and about to head into high school.
Mm.
So it feels like a massive shift from where I was. But I know that everybody is not where I'm at. And in the words of another homeschool mom that was chatting with me this week, she said, I really miss the golden years. And I do too.
Mm.
That might be why I'm staying in this space. And I
Yeah.
intend to stay in this space. But the golden years are your years, like when they're fully curious and engaged, and there are so many activities, and you're wondering how to organize it all and coordinate it all, and so much going on, so many voices, sometimes lots of kid conflict, or sometimes there's complaining and
Mm-hmm.
mom, I'm bored, and all that stuff. And it is a lot,
It is.
and I know how challenging it is to fit in a routine of pretty much anything, let alone self-care
Yeah.
or meditation.
Absolutely. And, I was thinking about this before we got on, that, you maybe there's people who will disagree with me, but for me, I am not able to do it all. Like, my priorities in terms of like my wellness are meditation, mindfulness, and then like cooking healthy foods. But what I let go of is oftentimes physical exercise. I mean, I try, right? And then a clean house. Like, I am personally just not able to do all of those things. And I think that's part of like the self-compassion part of mindfulness. There's the awareness wing, and then there's the compassion of mindfulness. And, that hand on the heart, like, Joanna, I know you wish you could do all these things. And in this season, it's just not going to happen. And that is okay. You are a human, and it's all good.
That
So, yeah.
is, yeah, beautiful
Thank
words,
you.
beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's not possible to do it all. I think of two things when you say that. Sarah, from Read Aloud Revival, had shared podcast. She had shared on my podcast, Homeschool Mama Self Care, that I asked her about how she can work and how she can homeschool at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what her response was going to be. I know a lot of people talk about how do you balance the two. I don't like the word balance
Yeah,
because I don't think
neither.
I don't
Yeah.
think you can do anything with balancing. That's a long time, 20, 30, whatever years parenting, that you're trying to balance things. But I do think, like she had said, that you can be fully engaged in whatever activity you're doing right now,
Mm.
and being fully present to whatever activity you're in. I think that's the goal.
Yes. And that's an example of mindfulness not really taking any time. It's just sort of approaching your life in a different way.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Then the other thing I was going to share with you has now left the building.
That's okay. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I understand.
Yeah, I know. We go from a postpartum phase that is just like a lot, and
Yes.
depending on the child, whether they're sleeping or colicky or whatever, to finally they're doing things independently about the age of 5. And then, as homeschool moms, we take on this giant role. Even if we're full unschooled, there's just like a sense of responsibility for everything. And then we do that for a number of years. It's so fun, but it is so on. And then, then you move into the teenage years, which have a different level of engagement, totally different engagement. also dependent on the child. And then you, lovely woman, get to move into perimenopause. Yes.
Oh
So
my
anyway,
goodness.
perimenopause is the reason why I've forgot my last thought. It's
Oh,
the
that's
building.
okay. I have something that I could share that I thought would
Yeah.
be interesting. And if you think of it, let me know.
Yeah.
Um, have you heard of the second arrow, the concept of the second arrow? I think it must have been the Buddha who referenced this story, but it basically means that in life, we all have like these arrows that come at us, right? Whether it's physical illness or just misfortune or difficulty of some kind. And that's a given. But then the second arrow, we oftentimes will throw at ourselves, and that's the it shouldn't be happening.
Yes.
Rumination or um, let's see what else. Just the resistance to the pain. It's like pain in life is inevitable, but pain plus resistance equals suffering.
Yes.
And so I was thinking, we have a homeschool co-op, and my 3-year-old comes with us, obviously. And recently he's been a lot more needy. He's needed me like physically to be playing with him.
Mm-hmm.
And the last couple of times I have found myself feeling so frustrated because this is my time to like socialize.
Mm-hmm.
And it dawned on me yesterday that I was experiencing suffering because I was resisting reality. I was saying my 3-year-old should not be needing me this way. I should be able to socialize, right? And that's not to say that I don't think about ways to make that time easier for myself or, find a way to engage with those friends later. But it's just recognizing that when we argue with reality, with the fact that, in that situation, my kid needed me in this way, that we're creating suffering for ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. The gap between our expectation and reality it's the discomfort, and I'm being gentle, or else it's the wild suffering, as you're referring.
Yeah.
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 And I don't, the thing is, for me, I see this entire life thing as a growth process or like a growth journey. And I was talking with a mom this morning, and I know this story. Like, I haven't fully shared my full childhood story, and oftentimes, and I'm not going to share all the details here. Um, it is so, in some ways, ridiculous because it has so many extremes in it, and it would make an amazing movie or a fabulous memoir, but also is ridiculous. There's so much absurdity that even I, when I want to go to share it, feel like people won't even believe that it's like this. I identify with Tara Brach's Educated, that book, or a little bit of Schindler's List, or a little bit of Sleeping with the Enemy. It's kind of like a combination of all those things together. And all I know, when I grew up, I was told from our fundamentalist tradition, I was told that I wasn't supposed to meditate. I wasn't supposed to do yoga. I wasn't supposed to do any mindfulness kind of things because that was from a certain religion and the religion wasn't acceptable. And I can give you the Bible verses why that is the case and the arguments for it. But then as I gradually allowed myself to embrace it, because I was so overwhelmed with life's arrows, I came to see that these were like lifelines. They were buoys or something for me, for I don't know, for, like you said, accepting what is right here and being present to what is right here. And then I said, you know what? I don't care how it's characterized. I'm going to embrace it. And I have found it's profound. Like, it's actually profound. And talking through things, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, has its place.
Mm-hmm.
And it is useful to have someone come alongside you, walk alongside you in whatever challenge. But what's profound, even more profound, is actually allowing yourself to feel it and accept it and to know, just like you said, that watcher, or whatever you want to call
Mm-hmm.
it, you're looking at yourself going, I'm okay. I'm actually okay. And I was not even just okay, but this entire growth journey was intended for me to grow from. And it's supposed to become something that I don't necessarily have control to make it into something, but it is meant for something much bigger. Maybe even just this conversation, you and I, in front of other people that are like, I don't know exactly what they're talking about, but I identify with the fact that the suffering exists and I don't want to feel it so deeply. And anyways, I probably am going on a tangent, honestly,
No, this
because
is beautiful.
it is but it is so real to me, this thing called meditation and mindfulness and yoga. And really, I would suggest maybe just connecting in with yourself and learning
Yes.
to nurture the nurturer.
Yes. Beautiful, Teresa. Yeah, it reminds me a bit of the hero's journey, like from a literary perspective,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the there's the initiation. Usually that's like, I don't know. Sometimes it's the hard stuff, like the dark night of the soul, and then there's the quest, and then yeah, I can't remember all the elements, but I think when we can view our life and our hardships through that perspective, I just got chill bumps.
Mm-hmm.
It gives depth and meaning, and I think hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like I spoke to another mom today, um, you can't control the things that happen to you. You can't control that the arrows are coming at you. I do think we can influence things if we're
Yes.
reacting in some way.
Yes.
You can't always control all the life events, but you can learn how to be present in it.
Yes. And those who know me right now will appreciate that my phone is getting ready to die, so I'm walking towards a phone charger. This is just I have it together in so many ways, and then there's like other ways that I just simply don't. But
Yeah, ditto. Well,
there, we're good. Yeah. It's so true. And I commented on Britt from, homeschooling is her last name Asiavati?
Britt, I can. If you are
Do you
watching
know?
this right now, I'm sorry. I don't
I
actually
know. I feel
your
like we both,
pronunciation.
yeah.
I know
But
Britt,
anyway, she was
my soul.
okay. Well, there you go. Her post this morning, I told her that her vulnerability is
Mm-hmm.
is so helpful.
Yeah.
Like when we can show up and be honest about ourselves, we remember that we are a part of humanity, right? And I know that you're big on self-compassion, and so I think of Kristen Neff,
Yes.
selfcompassion.org,
Yeah.
and how she talks about how we all experience suffering. The flavor may be different,
Yes.
but at some point in our lives, we've all probably felt a similar feeling. And
Yes.
when we can remember that, I think it removes that shame element and just reminds us of our interconnectedness,
Yeah.
that we're never alone. Yeah.
It's amazing that you brought up Britt right now. I just, it really,
Yes, I only know her through Instagram, but I really appreciate so much about her.
just want to shout out, Britt,
Yeah.
this is a sign.
Okay. Okay.
Vulnerability is our superpower. And I'm actually speaking to myself even right now, because I knew that even the things I was going to bring here, I'm always, in the last 3 years, if you knew me right from the beginning, I just wrote a book, because I always write books. I have other books even about my hero's journey. It's
Wow,
not,
that's impressive.
it's what I do, it's like
Okay.
something that I've
Mm-hmm.
just done. But then I thought I should start a podcast. That'd be cool. I could meet Julie Bogart.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
a lot
that's
of
right.
work
Yeah.
to do an entire podcast to meet someone. But I learned I love podcasting. If you watch my journey, you can see that I am uncomfortable in the beginning. And I remember my kids saying, that doesn't sound like you. You look really awkward and stilted. And it's really uncomfortable being public.
Yeah.
But as I do this more and more, right up until this day, I knew I'd be sitting here with you talking about something that has truly been one of those giant tools for my inner calm
Yeah.
and inner presence despite many crazy stories in my life, that I don't want to say it saved me, because I think there's a bigger power that's trying
Yeah.
to make us all feel grounded and present. But it was a tool that really did open up like a faucet, just like, okay, you want to feel at peace, here's the peace, I'm turning it on.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing that everyone can tap into.
Absolutely. And I think, you mentioned that larger force. And I mean, again, for me, and I may be kind of diverting from mindfulness a little bit, but it really does help me come into contact with that more. It helps me be aware to this present moment, this reality, right?
Yeah.
This is the only place where that force can live, is in this moment.
There is really no future. There is no past.
Mm-mm.
There's a perception of it.
Yeah,
There's memories, but you are right here.
exactly. And, learning to be in our bodies, I think that's another really important thing, because so often in spirituality, we want to just like bypass our feelings and,
Yes.
oh, it's under control. And I mean, it is, but we cannot bypass our feelings. We have to feel what we feel, and we feel them in the body. And so mindfulness is a tool to do that in a way that feels safe.
When I understand the idea that energy or emotion is energy in motion,
Yeah,
that just, emotions are energy in motion.
it's wild.
Oh yeah, it is wild, because as soon as, say, you watch your child almost walk across the train tracks and the train is coming, I don't know what I'm saying. Hopefully it never happens, but assuming it may have happened, and you grab your child back, in that moment you have this giant rush of fear. I'll take a real example. A couple of years ago, we're living in a mountain forest. A giant 200-foot tree falls down. But what I hear in my sleep is what sounds like an earthquake, or something. Someone drove into the front of the house, and I wake up in the middle of a deep sleep, and I realize, oh my goodness, my son's room is right there. He's going to be hit. And so I immediately go into alarm and run up the stairs to find out he's fine. And this 200-foot tree misses him by 6 inches.
Oh my
And
goodness.
that fright, that energy that I had, that coursed through me, it didn't go away, because I could see my son sleeping quietly. And that energy stays with you, whether you say, oh, I'm fine, let's just go make waffles. It still sticks with you. So then you have to acknowledge it, allow yourself to feel it. Frankly, I mean, there's many strategies to actually address that energy and emotion. Is there one that you would like to bring up? I know that
Yeah.
breathing is a super powerful one.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not trained in it, but I am working with a somatic experiencing practitioner right now as like a form of my own mental wellness therapy. And it's been profound. I mean, it's like mind blowing. Like our last session, this doesn't feel too personal, so I'll share, but we were processing my first child's birth. He's 7.5, and I've never done that. And, while it didn't feel traumatic, it was a big event in my life. And when we were finished, literally my hands were buzzing, and I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, you moved a lot of energy. I mean, I still don't fully understand it, but it's fascinating. So yeah, somatic experiencing, somatic touch. I've noticed that historically, when I feel overwhelmed, I get like a constricted feeling in my head right here.
Yeah.
But if I can feel my feet on the floor and kind of keep my attention on the lower half of my body, it's like it sort of encourages that energy flow, and I don't feel that head constriction. So I find that fascinating as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think if I want to help, I listen to a lot of moms talk about their challenges with their kids, and they're frustrated with their kids, because for various reasons, but they feel overwhelmed by the negative feedback that
Yeah.
they're getting. And in our culture, we talk a lot about helping our kids deal with their big emotions, which seems like, yeah, that's great. Except the problem is that most of us were not taught how to deal with our big emotions.
No.
So we're trying to do this thing to this child which honestly kind of looks controlling.
Yeah.
Like and I get it because I've totally done it.
Mm-hmm.
The instinct is to make it stop because it feels so internally overwhelming.
Right.
And I think our goal, actually, like you were speaking in the earlier aspect of this, is to feel our feelings and come inside of ourselves,
Yeah.
and self-regulate.
Yes, absolutely. I will sort of unintentionally give my friend Amanda Diekman a shout out. She's just wrote the book Low Demand Parenting. And she in the book references how our kids actually like borrow our brains when they're trying to regulate. And that's why, being with children who have a lot of needs or younger children can sort of sometimes feel draining at the end of the day. And which is why we do need to take care of ourselves. And yeah, I mean, for me, my non-negotiable is that I've got to have several times a week where I can just be by myself in my house.
Yeah.
And I don't feel guilty about that. There's like a time where maybe I would have, but I know that about myself.
Beautiful.
And the science backs it up.
Yes, science backs up
Yeah.
too. I just want to throw
Yeah.
that in. The
You
science,
said science backs up what?
it backs up meditation too.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yes, it's not
in a major way.
Yes, it's not just a spiritual practice anymore. It's scientific proven.
It is. Yep. It can be secular. It can be, it's in hospitals and schools. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Well, tell me a little bit about the offering that you have, the same.
Yeah, thank you.
Or Sangha.
I say Sangha, but to each their own. So yes, I'll tell you sort of about the motivation for it and then some details. So as I've alluded to, spirituality is a big part of my life, and I'm trying to be careful about how I say it has not been my experience that places of worship are necessarily built for families. It feels very, very patriarchal to me in that, we put babies in nurseries and Sunday schools, and then mom and dad go off and have their own time. And then, in the congregation in the chapel that, we're quiet and the kids have to be quiet. And with my first child, I sort of went through the motions and would, sweat bullets and just be completely stressed out, and with my second child, I sort of developed more of an inner wisdom and an authority. And I thought, and no shade on anyone who does leave their kids if they don't want to be left. We're all in different places. But for me, I got to a place where it did not feel okay leaving my crying child with someone else. And so we just kind of stopped going. And, I've really wanted to attend meditation retreats that are in person, and that's not doable with a young child. I mean, he's getting to the age where I can start to do that. And I thought, wait a minute, like there's something wrong here. And I just sort of started connecting the dots about like the patriarchy and spiritual practice. And I thought, well, there's something that I can do here in my community. And in addition to that, it's also influenced by Dr. Lisa Miller, who's a professor at Columbia University here in the United States. She talks about how a shared spirituality with a parent for the teenage years can reduce the chances of depression by 90%. And that's like an unfounded source of resilience.
Yeah.
And so, knowing that science, knowing my own experience, I started Family Sangha, which if people are local, we're having our first one in September. We'll be meeting at a river here in the city I'm in Durham, and I'll be leading a very kid-friendly mindfulness meditation practice. And it'll be a time for parents to talk and to share their experiences, and then to also give parents the time to sort of do what you and I are doing, and a place where they can log on to Zoom, and if they need to nurse their baby, they can, or if they have a kid who's screaming and they need their camera off, that's okay too. So I'm also leading Sangha for Mamas and Papas, which is geared towards parental needs. So there's like a talk about mindfulness and then a meditation. And then we do like discussion and just active listening to each other. So,
have you
yeah, thank you.
Has that been,
Have I what?
have you ever heard of that before, or this is your idea?
Well, I've been a member of sanghas. Of a sangha is a spiritual community rooted in like the mindfulness Buddhist tradition. But I haven't. I have not seen that. There is Mindful Families of Durham, which is cool, but still, the kids are expected to go into a different area, and I know some parents again like that, but that doesn't work for my family right now.
Yeah.
So no, I have not seen that.
Wow.
Yet, that model.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's out there, but I don't know of it.
I've seen that too. I'm thinking this is something that I haven't heard before. Maybe it's just because but the natural or the tendency to be super creative is nourished in those mindful moments, or in that, really in presence, and us being able to be present. And when I was a kid, I said I wasn't creative. I'm not a creative type. And at that time, I wasn't. And then I came to understand that I believe everyone is creative, and varying forms, but we're all very creative. And if we allow ourselves to be fully present and not pulled in many different directions, and we make space to be creative, we can do it. And this is what I hear is just like a beautiful form of creativity that is offered for everybody. Like everybody can participate.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. And I think that having an outlet as a homeschool parent, like whether it's, I don't know, a sport that you do or a podcast or what I'm doing, is really important. And so while it takes time, it fills my cup up so much to be doing this.
Yeah.
And I can show up as like a happy and a whole mom for my kids.
I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Again, shout out to social media, because we can connect with one another, and I appreciate your presence in the community.
Yeah, and yours too. Thank you.
Yeah. So when are you going to be beginning this program?
So we actually had our first one at the beginning of this month, and the next one will be, it's on first Sundays. On Zoom. And so the next one will be, I believe, August 4th. And people can find that on my website, which is just joannajohnmindfulness.com.
And so who is it for? Like, is it for younger families, older families?
It's for anyone, but I do have in mind those families who have kids who like need to be right there on them, right? And so for different families have different needs, and older kids may be doing that, but I think primarily the audience so far is younger kids, younger families. But there is something to be said about like multi-generational groups. It would be really nice to have parents of older children there who have a wisdom that we don't yet have and experience. So yeah.
I'm thinking in my head, how can I make that happen?
Oh yes, I would love to have you.
Yeah, it'd be super cool.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, doing this on Zoom really does break down barriers. Like I get that it's necessarily there's something profound about being present with someone physically. But
there is.
I mean, I have met so many people around the world in the last few years that I'm like, thank you for being an existent social media, because this was definitely.
I know. Yeah, and I mean, I started this program with Tara Brock. That was, with her, it was all online. We had like our teaching components in person, but I wouldn't have been able to do that with a baby had I had to be in person for school. So, technology has its advantages.
I'm trying not to ooh and ah over your interaction with Tara Brock.
Oh, I know.
She's a celebrity. She's a celebrity.
She's wonderful.
In the most nurturing way.
Yes, I know. And I hear the spiritual mother part. She's pretty cool.
She is pretty cool. But you're pretty cool. And I think,
thank you, Teresa. You're too.
Yeah. And what you're offering people, and the story that you've been given, no matter what challenges anyone has, but the stories you've been given and you embraced it and you said, okay, what am I supposed to learn from it? How am I supposed to be in it? What do I need to do when things feel out of sync or uncomfortable? And you going on that journey and then being willing to be vulnerable. I didn't even ask you about that story, but being willing to be vulnerable into the world or in the world the way you are and sharing what is obviously very authentic, that's benefiting whoever is connected with you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Teresa. I really appreciate that. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. And if anybody wants to see a replay, they can see it here. My intention is also over the next day or so to put it on YouTube as well, on
Cool.
my YouTube channel. Is there
Okay.
anything else that you would like to share before I close?
I don't know. The only other thing I was wondering is, should we close out with like just a mindful minute?
So beautiful. I can't believe I didn't
Okay.
that.
Yeah,
I
that's
love that.
fine.
Yes.
So
Yes. Okay.
maybe 2 minutes. I'll kind of just guide us for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lead.
So just wherever you are in this world, if your eyes are already closed, that's fine. But if you would like to open them, you might choose to orient them to the space that you're in. Just remembering that you're here right now. And if it feels okay, closing them. And noticing your body's contact with whatever surface it's on, whether it's feet on the floor or sits bones on your chair. And just noticing the felt sensation of gravity. Gravity is supporting you. And if it feels okay, noticing that the breath is happening right now. The body is breathing itself without you doing anything at all. You might notice the effect of noticing the breath. And then you might ask yourself the question, and this is sort of open-answered. You can play with it a bit. Who is the one noticing the breath? And then noticing the effect that these, 2 to 3 minutes have had on your body. And perhaps making an intention for the remainder of your day or your evening. Perhaps it's compassion for yourself and all the other people in this wide world living this human experience. Perhaps it's the attention just to remember when you're going about your day and your evening that right now, where you are, is the only place you can ever be. Thank you. And in your own time, just bringing your attention back to the Instagram space.
Thank you. Wow, that's wild, actually. You probably have never said that.
Yeah.
Back to Instagram.
Bring your attention back to Instagram. They should hire me. Oh my goodness.
Name, is it Massimo something? Anyway.
Oh yeah.
That,
Well, thank you, Teresa. This has really been fun. This is my first live.
your first live on Instagram.
First live.
Bring you back.
Yep.
Because
that would be fun. Thank you.
And so where are we going to find you? I think you said joannajohn.com.
JoannaJohnMindfulness.com is my website. And then, I'm assuming that you'll be able to see my Instagram handle here, which is also
You will.
Joanna John Mindfulness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
yeah.
such a pleasure to chat with you, to really connect in real time.
I know. Yes. Same here. Yeah. Thank you again. And I'm looking forward to listening to more of your work.
Thank you.
Very appreciated.
Yeah.
Thanks, Teresa.
Have a lovely day.
You too. Bye.
Bye, everybody.